All right. Hi. Thanks for coming by my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about probably the most common question I get, and that is, I want to paint, but I don't know where to get started. And I get it. There's so many supplies out there. It can be really overwhelming to just pick what to grab to get started. So I'm going to try to dial it down, super simplify it for you, and walk you through that today. So let's jump into it. First thing you're gonna get is your canvas. Honestly, I wouldn't overthink the canvas part. You can keep it pretty simple. Most craft stores you go to, or even online, you can find a bunch of different kinds. I wouldn't worry about overthinking it though. I order a bunch of these like really cheap ones. Don't have to get them on Amazon. You don't have to get them at Michael's, even just wherever you can grab them. A little tip I will give you with them though is sometimes the canvas can be a little warped or like loose. If you do run into that problem, it's a super easy fix. You can either use I use like a little water spray bottle. You can also just dip a brush in water and just coat the back of the canvas with water, and after it dries, it's going to tighten it back up. Brand new canvas. It's amazing. So it's a little trick there, but yeah, it's pretty simple. Just grab a canvas. Don't overthink it. I don't personally, I will say, love those like canvas boards. I painted on them and I literally don't know what it is about them, but I don't really like them. But you should still experiment with them if you want to, especially if that's what's accessible to you, use it. But I do like just like a real basic canvas. All right, you got your canvas. Next is to get a stencil put on your canvas before you paint. I have a canvas I'm working on right now, and I'm just gonna kind of show you an example of what mine look like after I transfer it. Now, how I transfer them, I like to do my drawing on my iPad first, just because I have access to one already, and I kind of fuss with proportions for a while before I'm happy with it, so it gives me a cleaner canvas and not doing it directly on the canvas. So if you're going that route, basically what I would do is draw it there. Once I'm happy with it, I print it out at the size of my canvas, and then I coat the back of it with some kind of charcoal. There's two ways you could do that. You can either use charcoal powder, which I use a lot, especially for bigger ones, and it just goes faster. It's just like loose charcoal. You just coat the back of it, or you can use your pencil. You don't have to go and buy that if you already have a pencil in hand. Just take it and just kind of rub the back of it until the whole back is covered. And then you're gonna take that and tape it onto your canvas. Once you have it taped on there, you usually use a pen and just trace over all the lines I'm trying to transfer. The pressure is gonna push the charcoal right onto it, and then it's gonna give you a nice clean stencil afterwards. If you don't have access to an iPad and you do need to draw directly on the canvas, totally fine. It might have a little bit more charcoal on it when it's done though, so this is really gonna help you then, and that is some workable fixative. I use this if I'm drawing directly on the canvas or I'm transferring it this way. I always use this afterwards before I paint. Just spray it on there, let it dry, and you're good to go. Don't really know why I use workable fixative, to be honest. I feel like I had a high school teacher have me use it once, and I just like never use anything else. But it works, so I recommend taking it. But spray it on there, let it dry, and then it's gonna stop your charcoal on your canvas from mixing with your paints or smearing from your hand or anything like that. It's just gonna hold it in place for you. So get your stencil. And we're on to the next step. Next step is get some paint. Paint is probably simultaneously the funnest part, but also the most overwhelming to pick because there's just a billion different brands, and then there's a bunch of different types of paints within the brands, so it can be a lot. I'm really not particularly married to any brand either. I do go for a lot of Liquitex basics, but that's just because it's so easily accessible. It's in most craft stores, most art stores, so I go for that a lot. What's more important to me than the brand is, and I'm gonna show you, this little square right here. All paint, or at least almost all paint, is gonna have that square on it somewhere. It'll either look like that, or it'll be a half square like this, or it's gonna be completely empty. That's gonna indicate how transparent versus opaque the paint is. The solid square being the most opaque, empty square being the most transparent. It's gonna be a lifesaver for you because with painting with acrylics, you're always gonna have to do a bunch of layers to get any color really solid, but I like to kind of make the amount of layers I have to do less when possible, and getting the solid squares is going to help that. You're going to be able to get something solid in, say, 3 layers versus possibly 7. This was an accidental buy, but it is a pretty cool. But yeah, that's the most important thing I look for in paints. So just keep an eye out for those and pick colors you like. All right, and next is brushes. I don't feel like I'm going to be incredibly helpful here because I don't have like a brand or anything of brushes either that I'm attached to. I do like to buy cheap brushes though. I kind of prefer it because I'm really picky about when the hairs start to kind of fray. Once they start to fray, I'm kind of like done. So I've bought really expensive brushes. I've bought really cheap brushes. They kind of all start to fray. So if I'm going to go through them anyways, I just go for the cheap ones. The most important thing with brushes is honestly just how you take care of them, cheap or not. Make sure you're keeping them clean while you're painting, rinsing them thoroughly. Never leave paint like wet on a brush sitting out. If you're not using it for a minute even, rinse it thoroughly. Also wash them. Wash them really well after every time you paint. Just when you're done for the day, just wash them and never leave them sitting in water. Other than that though, I think with brushes you kind of have to it's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of figuring out what works best for your painting style. So I would just they have like multi-packs that have a bunch of different sizes in them that are pretty cheap. You can try different types, but just see what works best for you. But don't worry about, I know they have like the displays and look beautiful, like all the really pricey brushes. You don't need them, just get some cheap brushes. Next thing we need is a palette and a palette knife. Palette knives, they're pretty easy to find. I like these kind of thinner ones. I don't really like the really big ones just because it ends up covering so much of the surface to mix. I also actually really like, is it nearby? Okay, I don't see it. I also have a really small one I like, just again, it just covers less surface area, so it keeps my paint a little bit more controlled. And as far as the palettes go, this is palette paper. It's basically got like a wax coating on it so that the paint doesn't soak into it like regular paper. And it's like a sheet of them, so there's a bunch. They can be really convenient, and again, they're cheap and easy to find. But I prefer personally, this is my palette. It's a glass palette. I like it because it's reusable. I can just scrape the paint off of it whenever I'm done. But here's what it looks like. There's a bunch of paint I'm using right now on it. It's so cool. Like you can see all my old projects all just coated all that old paint. It just makes me happy to look at. But I really like the glass palettes, but they can get pricier, especially when you're just starting out. But honestly, if you have glass on hand, I mean, as long as it's not like broken and you're gonna cut yourself, I'm not gonna condone that. But if you have like some thick glass that you're not using like from a shelf or something, you can totally use that. Palette paper is really convenient though, so I do recommend maybe starting with that. Other than that, just some water so that you're rinsing your paintbrush throughout the process, and a rag or paper towels. I have like an old dish rag I use for my paints. I use that just to dry my brush off in between, or to wipe some of the excess paint for my palette knife on it, because you don't really want it to dry on your palette knife either. You want to keep them nice and clean. That's kind of it though. After that, you're just ready to just jump in, have fun, fall in love with the process, experiment. It's so much fun. Yeah, if you have any questions about anything from this video, please let me know. If you have any questions about my woodcuts or any other videos you'd like me to make, please let me know. I would love to make more content for you guys. So thanks for stopping by. I hope it helped. Till next time, bye.